Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to explore an absolutely fascinating shift in how systemic counselors look at human behavior and family dynamics. If you've ever found yourself stuck in an argument that just keeps looping, or if you've ever wondered why certain problems seem to just stubbornly resist individual solutions, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to unpack how therapists use this really brilliant technique to reveal the hidden webs of influence in our everyday lives. Why are you so angry? It's a super common question, right? Probably the traditional way we'd approach things. But from a systemic counseling perspective, this question is actually kind of a trap. It totally isolates the individual. It assumes this rigid cause and effect mentality, that something happened and it directly caused this one person to be angry. It basically treats the person as an island, rather than a living part of a larger moving system. Section 1. Escaping the blame game. Okay, let's dive right into this comparison. Linear questions assume a straight sequence of actions. They presume there's a single, knowable cause for a feeling or a problem, and that cause obviously preceded it in time. Things like, why did you do that? Or what caused this? But as our source material shows, honestly, this often just leads to finger-pointing. Dead ends. Circular questions, however, take a completely different approach. Just notice the difference in tone and focus here. How does your partner begin to reconnect with you? Circular questions don't look for a single cause. Instead, they actually map out the space between people. They focus on the relationships, the underlying beliefs, and the ongoing interactions among family members. Section 2. What is circular questioning? So here's the formal definition. Circular questioning, which is also known as relational questioning, is a core technique used by systemic practitioners. It was actually originally introduced by the Milan Group, which was a pioneering team of family therapists over in Italy. The core idea here is that when an individual behaves in a certain way, we really shouldn't just ask why. Instead, we should explore the relational dynamic. We're exploring the entire system. Think of a family system like a giant wheel of influence. The individual sits in the center, like a star, with spokes radiating outward to parents, siblings, partners, friends, mentors, the whole shebang. A family system is an interconnected web. No one acts in a vacuum. If you tug on one of those spokes, the whole star moves with it. Circular questioning is the specific tool counselors use to map out exactly how this entire wheel spins when just one part is disturbed. Section 3. From actor to observer. The mechanics of how this actually works are fascinating. Circular questioning literally shifts the client's view from that of an actor in the middle of the drama to an observer of it. Think of it like a camera lens. When you're arguing, the camera is zoomed way in on a tight close-up of you and your feelings. Circular questioning pulls the camera all the way back to a wide shot of the entire room, letting you see the whole scene play out from a distance. So how do they pull that camera back? Well, by using the power of the third person. See, when we're defensive, we use I and you, like, I am hurt because you did this. But circular questions force the conversation into he, she, or they. And this shift is incredible because it forces clients to step out of that defensive, reactive actor role. It brings the presence of other family members right into focus, and suddenly, broader family patterns just reveal themselves. You're no longer just justifying your own actions, you're observing the relational effects of them. Section 4. Circular questions in action. Let's look at scenario 1, which focuses on a family dealing with depression. Traditionally, a therapist might look at Maria and ask, how do you experience your depression, or why are you feeling so low? But remember, systemic counselors from the Milan Group, they aren't looking for a linear cause inside Maria's head. They want to see the system. So instead of focusing solely on Maria, the counselor uses a sequence of cascading questions. Step 1, who is most upset when Maria is depressed? Let's say the answer is Dad. The counselor builds on that. Step 2, what does Dad do to try and help? And then step 3, how does your mother react when your father tries to help Maria? Do you see what just happened there? Without ever asking Maria to defend her depression, the therapist has mapped out an entire multi-generational triangle of family dynamics. We now see exactly how Maria's symptoms triggered Dad's rescuing behavior, which then triggers Mom's reaction. Let's apply this to parenting with scenario 2, raising voices. Imagine a parent who struggles with emotional outbursts and yelling at home. Instead of asking the parent, why can't you control your temper? A systemic practitioner might simply ask, when you get upset and raise your voice, which of your children seems to be most concerned and which seems to be least concerned? So the absolutely crucial point here is that this question is entirely non-judgmental, yet it is wildly illuminating. It invites the parent to stop being the actor who's just caught up in anger and become the observer of how their specific behavior ripples through the different personalities of their kids. Let's look at one more scenario. Scenario 3, the arguing couple. We all know how couples can get stuck in negative loops, what the source material calls negative Velcro loops, where partners literally just trigger each other endlessly. To break that loop, a counselor might ask, how does your partner begin to reconnect with you when you've been arguing with each other? Notice what this question completely bypasses. It ignores the blame of the argument itself. It doesn't ask who started it or who's right. Instead, it forces the couple to observe their systemic pattern of repair. It shifts their view to the space between them, looking for the positive sequence of how they actually come back together. Section 5. Assessing and healing simultaneously. The Milan Group and subsequent practitioners realized something really profound about circular questioning. It falls under the umbrella of what's called interventive interviewing. The core idea here is that these questions aren't just some clinical assessment to help the therapist jot down notes. The questions actually are the intervention. By simply gathering the information, by forcing the client to answer these third-person relational questions, the therapist is simultaneously initiating therapeutic change. The very act of answering expands the client's worldview. It frees them up to think about themselves and their relationships in a much less defensive and much more exploratory way. Practitioners use tools like genograms to map all of this out. By plotting out these relational dynamics, the boundaries, and the patterns over generations, the therapist isn't just diagnosing a problem. Making the family aware of these repeating relational patterns, seeing it all laid out as a connected web, is inherently therapeutic in itself. It actually changes the system simply by observing it. Which leaves us with this final thought. Think about your own life for a second. Think about that wheel of influence we talked about earlier and your own interconnected web. When you get upset, who in your circle seems most concerned? How do your actions ripple through your system? Once you stop looking for simple cause and effect and start looking at the relationships, the whole world opens up. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this paradigm shift leaves you eager to map out the fascinating systems in your own life.